Sora, the video generating model from ChatGPT,
I can't wait to talk about this.
is so good. It's so bad. Everything it makes has so in hallucinations in the written word, it will say something authoritatively that isn't true. In Sora, it just makes like a monkey with 7 arms, and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
And every time you ask it to do anything, it takes, I think if it's 20 seconds long, it takes 10 minutes or 20 minutes to generate.
Yeah.
And the prompts, no matter how precise, it usually makes up some extra stuff.
Yeah.
And the amount of training data they'll need to make Sora work is insane.
Yeah.
On top of all of this, also horribly unprofitable, and it doesn't do anything. It does not do anything. It doesn't make anyone money. This is the big thing. People talking about, oh, well, it's going to get exponentially better. First of all, it hasn't been. But on top of that, it's still not profitable. It's still horribly unprofitable. And it requires all this energy, and it requires all this training data. There's so much more evidence that this is kind of tapping out in the generative AI space.
Yeah. I mean, when Sora came out, and let's be clear, that product is not available to the public.
No.
They released some tech demo videos. But again, working in Hollywood, a lot of people I know said, well, this is the end.
Understandably.
Like this is the future of movie making. They won't need to film anything. They'll just like have Sora output shots. And, I'd have to walk through with people. I was like, okay, first of all, this is not available to the public. They've released like 6 videos that they say were made by this.
Right.
So how many bad videos did they need to make before they got these 6 that they showed us, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take to make each one of these? Like what was, we are talking about, 30 frames per second of 4K footage, right? And
not even 4K, by the way.
Oh, really?
So I spoke to someone a guy from a company called Shy Kids that made a video with Sora. They had to get it at 480p because it took too long if you went higher resolution.
Yeah, because I mean, rendering times are very serious just with traditional visual effects. And so you're talking about a large language model generating something, or it's not a large language model, but a similar technology, right? A generative AI.
In Sora's large language model.
Okay, great. But so there's that piece of it. Then so the amount of processing that it has to do compared to making, a DALL-E image is like exponential, right? Then you don't have the ability to make a tiny tweak, right? That you do in, when you're actually working with an actor, you can say, walk a little bit faster, walk a little bit slower. I know because if you ask DALL-E, generate the same thing, but make it a little bit brighter. It gives you a whole new image, right? And so it would be like that as well. Plus, if they made a great image of a lady walking down a Hong Kong street, right, with a shiny floor, right, with there was rain on the street.
And the legs at one point go like that.
Yeah, yeah. But it looked pretty okay,
It looked
right?
plausible, yes.
But the only reason that it knew what it looked like for a lady to walk down a Hong Kong street was because it had ingested huge amounts of footage of people walking down Hong Kong streets. Like it needed the footage to begin with to generate the thing, so it can't generate new things. And, you won't be able to solve the problem that the executive will have at the film company where they're like, oh, I don't like the take. Can we get another one? No, actually, we can't, because if we do that, it'll be a completely different person in a completely different situation. So that problem is unsolved. And so to ask, well, isn't it and it's going to be massively expensive to compute all of this over and over and over again, generate all of this. So at what point is it cheaper just to send a fucking dude with a camera to Hong Kong and get a lady on a rainy day? Like but it's a great tech demo, but people are getting rolled by seeing the tech demo and imagining what it could do rather than looking at the reality of the technology at all.
And that is the entire AI hype bubble writ large. It is letting journalists, let's be honest, filling in the gaps for these companies.
Yeah.
Sora, great example. So, okay, theoretically, if the computer could spit out an image of a woman walking down the street at any time, that would be great. But like you said, it is not just a question. You can't even ask, if you say woman with black hair, Asian woman with black hair, different Asian every time, probably pink hair at some point.
Right.
Because of the training data is trained on.
Well, and because the technology is fundamentally unpredictable. Like that's how it works. You can't say I want exactly this, but slightly different. Because it is generating
probabilistic.
It's probabilistic, yeah.
And it's funny because look at ChatGPT. When people write about the future of OpenAI, they're not talking about this shit. They're talking about what Sam Altman has been beating off on TV for a year. They're talking about Sam Altman saying, oh yeah, well, he said to New York Magazine in 2016, I think it was New York Magazine, New Yorker, that it would be not unreasonable to think within 10 years, or 20 years, I think it was, that he would have a computer version of his brain. And he's very good at making these things where the gap between the predictions is long enough that no one's really going to check.
Yeah.
I will check, Sam. I've got it in my flipping calendar. I do. But you look at this, and he goes out there and he'll vaguely say that ChatGPT is the future. AI is the future. We need to be scared of AI. Yeah. He'll say AI is not a creature. But what he wants you to think is, did someone think it's a creature?
Mm-hmm.
Because he wants this mystique. Because if he actually had to talk about the thing he's selling today, he'd go, well, it's a calculator of sorts. Well, it doesn't always work, but when it does, it's sort of good. And I can understand in business process automation. I mentioned UiPath. They're a robotic process automation company. They're worth billions because of them doing these very minute, very simple customer service things. But because you can scale that, that's useful. GPT and large language models fit into this kind of thing extremely well. These companies are growing because of that. That will help them. That ain't sexy and that ain't big. That's not trillions. Yeah. That's hundreds of billions at best, and that's going to take a minute. And also, you can't sell that to the markets that natively. It's just not that nice. And also, RPA is profitable. GPT, large language models, absolutely not. But because Altman goes in there and says, here's this thing that kind of looks like the future. Look, this thing can do kind of realistic videos. People say they're scared. I'm scared of what this could be. And they fill in that white space and they say, well, because this thing can approximate how a human writes, this thing will write in place of humans within 5 years. Oh, because this video kind of looks like something you could film of real people. Naturally, in 5 years, this will be how entertainment is generated. And the problem is, that's the old world when things used to. There is no Moore's law for this crap. This is not a situation where we're simply going to get more power and this will fix itself. Even if we threw so much more power at this problem, it would still hallucinate because that's maths, baby.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
And it still wouldn't be able to give you that slight variation on the previous clip because it would still be probabilistic. That's the nature of the technology. It's not something that they can just like cram more transistors onto a smaller chip like they do with Moore's law.